Hello there, and welcome. I am so glad you've decided to join me for this session. Today, we are diving into a story and a philosophy that has the potential to completely reshape how you look at your own limits, your past, and your future. We are going to explore the core principles of a life lived at the very edge of human capability. You might feel like you've reached your limit before, maybe in your career, your fitness, or just in your daily mental endurance, but the ideas we are about to discuss suggest that when your mind tells you that you're done, you're actually only just getting started. The main purpose of this book is to provide a roadmap for mastering the mind through the embrace of suffering and total accountability. It isn't just a memoir, it is a call to arms for anyone who feels stuck or believes they are a product of their circumstances. It teaches that the human spirit is capable of enduring far more than we give it credit for, provided we are willing to stop making excuses and start seeking out the things that make us uncomfortable. As we move through this summary, there are a few high-level ideas you should keep in mind. First, there is the concept of total self-honesty, the idea that you cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. Second, we will look at the governor that exists inside your brain, a self-limiting software that tries to protect you from pain but actually keeps you from your true potential. And finally, we will explore the necessity of callousing your mind, much like you would callous your hands through hard manual labor, to ensure that you are prepared for the inevitable hardships of life. This incredible journey of self-discovery and physical extremity was written by David Goggins, and his life serves as the ultimate proof that you can choose to be the person who overcomes, rather than the person who is defined by their trauma. Before we get into the heart of these lessons and start breaking down how you can apply them to your own path, I'd like to invite you to like this audio, share it with someone who needs a push, and subscribe so you don't miss our future explorations into the world's most impactful books. Now, let's begin. Mastering the internal battlefield. The accountability mirror and the power of brutal honesty. The first major concept we must understand is the accountability mirror. This idea is centered on the belief that real change cannot happen until you are willing to look at yourself with complete, unfiltered honesty. It isn't about being mean to yourself, it's about being accurate. In the book, this practice involves literally standing in front of a mirror and being vocal about your shortcomings, your insecurities, and the areas where you are failing. You don't sugarcoat the truth. If you are out of shape, you say it. If you are being lazy, you admit it. You then write your goals on post-it notes and stick them to that mirror, creating a physical and visual contract with yourself that you have to face every single morning and every single night. This is important because most of us live in a state of soft denial. We use polite language to describe our failures, or we blame our environment and our upbringing for why we aren't where we want to be. By using the accountability mirror, you strip away those excuses. It forces you to take 100% ownership of your life. When you look at those notes on the mirror, you aren't looking at a to-do list, you are looking at the person you are choosing to become. It shifts the power from the external world back to you. It teaches you that while you might not be responsible for the trauma you experienced in the past, you are entirely responsible for how you handle yourself today. For example, imagine someone who wants to get a promotion but keeps getting passed over. Instead of blaming an unfair boss, the accountability mirror method would have them look in the mirror and admit they haven't put in the extra hours or improved their skills. By admitting that I am the reason I haven't been promoted, they finally gain the power to change the outcome. Now we move to the next point, which takes this foundation of honesty and applies it to the moments when we feel like we have nothing left to give. Once you are honest about your starting point, you have to understand how your brain tries to stop you from reaching the finish line. The 40% rule and the mind's governor. The next core point is the 40% rule. This concept suggests that when your mind tells you that you are exhausted, completely spent, and physically unable to go any further, you have actually only reached about 40% of your true capability. Your brain has a built-in governor, much like a car has a device that limits how fast it can go to protect the engine. Your brain's job is to keep you safe, comfortable, and alive. Therefore, at the first sign of significant pain or discomfort, it begins to send signals of fatigue to get you to stop. It wants you to go back to the couch, to the warmth, and to the safety of the known. Understanding the 40% rule is vital because it changes your relationship with pain. Instead of seeing exhaustion as a stop sign, you begin to see it as a warning sign that you are just entering the growth zone. When you realize that there is another 60% of effort and endurance waiting behind that initial wall of fatigue, you gain a competitive advantage over almost everyone else, and more importantly, over your own weaker impulses. It is about staying in the fight when your brain is screaming at you to quit. This is how elite performers in any field, whether it's special forces, professional sports, or high-level business, manage to achieve what seems impossible to the average person. A simple example would be a runner who hits the wall at mile 18 of a marathon. Their legs are cramping, and their mind is telling them they will collapse if they take another step. By applying the 40% rule, that runner recognizes that this feeling is just the governor kicking in. They acknowledge the pain but remind themselves they have over half their tank left, allowing them to push through the mental fog to finish the race. Now we move to the next point, which explores how we can actually strengthen the mind so that it becomes easier to ignore the governor over time. Just as we train our muscles, we must train our mental resilience through a specific process of exposure. Callousing the mind through intentional suffering. This leads us to the concept of callousing the mind. The idea is that the mind, much like the skin on your hands, becomes tougher when it is subjected to friction and pressure. If you live a life of constant comfort, your mind remains soft. You become easily overwhelmed by small inconveniences, and you lack the mental grip to handle major life catastrophes. To callous your mind, you must intentionally seek out things that make you uncomfortable. You have to do the things you hate doing, and you have to do them consistently. This isn't about being a masochist, it's about building a reservoir of mental toughness that you can draw upon when life gets truly difficult. This is important because motivation is a fickle emotion. It comes and goes. You cannot rely on feeling like it to get your work done or to stay disciplined. Callousing the mind creates a disciplined default state. When you have forced yourself to run in the rain, to study when you're tired, or to have difficult conversations when you're scared, you are building a layer of mental callus. Eventually, the things that used to break you become routine. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "I've been through worse, I can handle this." A relatable example is the person who hates waking up early but forces themselves to get out of bed at 5 a.m. every single morning to exercise. The first week is miserable. The second week is still hard. But after months of this, the friction of waking up early no longer hurts. They have calloused their mind against the desire for extra sleep, and that discipline then bleeds into every other area of their life, making them more productive and resilient overall. Building on the idea of mental calluses, we encounter a more aggressive concept known as taking souls. While it sounds intense, this isn't about being cruel to others, it's about a psychological shift in how you handle competition and adversity. Taking souls is the act of performing at such a high level, especially in conditions that are miserable for everyone involved, that you effectively break the will of your opposition or even the situation itself. When you are in a high-pressure environment, whether it's a grueling physical test or a high-stakes business negotiation, everyone is looking for a reason to slow down. When you show them that you are not only enduring the pain but thriving in it, you sap their energy and boost your own. This concept is important because it shifts your focus from your own internal struggle to the external environment. Instead of focusing on how much your legs hurt or how tired you are, you start focusing on the person next to you. You decide that you will outwork them so thoroughly that they begin to question their own resolve. By doing this, you find a second wind. You are no longer a victim of the circumstances, you become the one who defines the pace. It turns a defensive struggle for survival into an offensive pursuit of excellence. It's about finding energy in the fact that you are doing what others cannot or will not do. A practical example of this would be a team project where the deadline is looming and everyone is exhausted and complaining. Instead of joining the complaints, you become the most energetic, focused person in the room. You work harder and faster than anyone else, not to show off, but to set a standard that forces everyone else to either step up or admit they've been outmatched. By taking the soul of the difficult situation, you become the leader by default. Now we move to the next point, which provides a specific mental tool for those moments when you feel your resolve slipping and you need an immediate boost of confidence. While taking souls is an outward-facing strategy, this next concept is a private, internal reserve of strength. The cookie jar, drawing from past triumphs. When you are in the middle of a heat-of-the-moment crisis, it is very easy to forget who you are and what you have accomplished. This is where the cookie jar comes in. The cookie jar is a mental filing cabinet where you store all of your past victories, especially the ones that were hard-won. These cookies are the moments where you overcame odds, finished something difficult, or survived a period of intense suffering. They aren't just big trophies or graduations. They can be small things, like the time you finished a workout when you really wanted to quit, or the time you stayed calm when someone was yelling at you. The reason the cookie jar is so vital is that during times of extreme stress, your brain suffers from a kind of temporary amnesia. It forgets your strength and only focuses on the current discomfort. By reaching into the cookie jar, you intentionally remind yourself of your track record. You tell yourself, "I've been through hell before, and I made it out. If I could handle that, I can handle this." It provides a burst of dopamine and a reminder of your proven capability. It's not about empty positive thinking, it's about using cold, hard evidence from your own life to silence the voice of doubt. An example of this is someone facing a major public speaking engagement and feeling paralyzed by fear. Instead of just trying to be brave, they reach into their cookie jar and remember the time they studied for 20 hours straight to pass a difficult exam or the time they hiked a mountain with a sprained ankle. They use those memories as proof that they are the kind of person who can endure discomfort, which gives them the steady hand they need to step onto the stage. Now we move to the next point, which deals with how we handle the inevitable moments when things don't go according to plan. Having a cookie jar is helpful, but we also need a clinical way to analyze our mistakes without being crushed by them. The after-action report, learning from the wreckage. In the military, an after-action report, AAR, is a standard procedure after a mission to analyze what went right, what went wrong, and how to improve. The book teaches us to apply this to our personal lives, especially after a failure. Most people handle failure in one of two ways. They either make excuses and blame others, or they fall into a pit of self-loathing. Neither of these is productive. The AAR requires you to look at your failure with the cold, detached eye of a scientist. You write down exactly what happened, the decisions you made, and the external factors involved. You look for the why behind the failure without letting your ego get in the way. The importance of the after-action report lies in its ability to turn wasted time and effort into valuable data. If you fail at something and just walk away, you've lost everything. But if you perform an AAR, the failure becomes a tuition payment for your future success. It removes the emotional sting of losing by turning the experience into a puzzle to be solved. It forces you to be honest about your preparation and your execution. By the time you finish an AAR, you shouldn't be thinking about how bad you feel. You should be thinking about the specific adjustments you're going to make for the next attempt. For instance, if someone fails a professional certification exam, their AAR might reveal that they spent too much time on the concepts they already knew and ignored the difficult ones because of a subconscious desire for comfort. Instead of saying the test was unfair, the AAR identifies the specific flaw in their study habit. This gives them a clear, actionable plan for the second attempt, turning a moment of defeat into a strategic advantage. Now we move to the next point, which addresses the environment we choose to live in and the standards we set for ourselves compared to the rest of society. Once you start analyzing your failures and drawing from your successes, you begin to realize that the average standard of success is actually quite low. The uncommon amongst uncommon. As you continue to callous your mind and apply these rules, you eventually reach a level of discipline that separates you from the majority of people. However, there is a trap at this level, the trap of satisfaction. Many people work hard to become the best in their local environment, the fittest person in their office, or the hardest worker in their friend group. Once they achieve that, they stop. The book argues that this is where the real work begins. To be uncommon amongst uncommon means you don't compare yourself to the average person, you compare yourself to the elite. And once you reach the elite level, you look for ways to push even further. This concept is important because it prevents the complacency of success. It is easy to be a big fish in a small pond, but that environment eventually makes you soft again. To stay sharp, you must constantly seek out uncommon people who will challenge your new standards. You have to keep moving the finish line. This mindset ensures that you are always growing and that your governor never gets a chance to settle back in at a higher speed. It's about the perpetual pursuit of a 100% that you know you will never actually reach, but the chase itself is what keeps your mind calloused and your spirit strong. A relatable example is an athlete who wins a regional championship. Most would celebrate and take a long break, feeling they've made it. The person seeking to be uncommon amongst uncommon is back in the gym the next morning, looking at the statistics of the national champions and realizing how much further they have to go. They don't let the applause of the crowd convince them that the journey is over. Now we move to the next point, which discusses the specific way we must talk to ourselves during these periods of high-intensity growth. It's not just about what we do, it's about the internal dialogue that facilitates these actions. The power of the internal monologue. One of the most profound lessons in the book is the realization that your internal dialogue is the most important conversation you will ever have. Most people have a default voice in their head that is critical, fearful, and lazy. When things get hard, that voice starts offering deals. If you stop now, you can rest, or you've done enough for today. To master your mind, you have to learn to hijack that conversation. You have to develop a voice that is demanding and disciplined. This isn't about positive affirmations in the traditional, soft sense. It's about a hard, direct command of your own consciousness. This is important because your body follows your mind. If your mind is negotiating for a way out, your body will eventually find one. By taking control of the internal monologue, you dictate the terms of your existence. You talk to yourself like a commander talking to a soldier. You use the accountability mirrored logic in real time. When the lazy voice speaks up, the disciplined voice must immediately shut it down with facts and commands. This creates a mental environment where quitting isn't even an option on the table. For example, when someone is midway through a difficult task and they feel the urge to check their phone or take an unscheduled break, their internal monologue might say, "You are looking for a distraction because this is hard. Sit back down. Finish the page." You do not negotiate with your own laziness. This internal drill sergeant keeps the individual on track when external motivation is nowhere to be found. A recurring theme in this journey of self-mastery is the way we react to the skepticism of others and, more importantly, the skepticism of our own minds. This brings us to the what-if mindset. Whenever you are faced with a daunting task, or when someone tells you that what you're trying to do is impossible, the standard human response is to agree or to feel discouraged. The what-if mindset is the antidote to that discouragement. It is a simple, two-word question that you pose to yourself: what if? What if I actually finish this? What if I am the one who makes it through when everyone else quits? What if I can turn my life around despite all the evidence to the contrary? This idea is important because it shifts the focus from the probability of failure to the possibility of success. It doesn't require you to be certain that you will succeed, it only requires you to remain open to the potential of it. In the book, this mindset is used as a shield against the negativity of the world. When people see you struggling or starting from a place of disadvantage, they often project their own limitations onto you. By asking what if, you create a private space where their opinions cannot reach you. It turns the impossible into a personal challenge. It allows you to visualize the end goal not as a fantasy, but as a legitimate outcome that is within your power to achieve. A relatable example would be someone who grew up in poverty or struggled with learning disabilities, being told they'll never get into a prestigious university. Instead of accepting that fact, they look at their situation and ask, what if I'm the one who beats the statistics? That what if doesn't do the work for them, but it provides the mental fuel to start the work and keep going when the path gets steep. Now we move to the next point. After learning to frame our potential through the what-if mindset, we must address the practical reality of time. To achieve what others think is impossible, you have to manage your life with a level of precision that most people find exhausting. The 24-hour mission, eliminating the no-time excuse. A major hurdle for anyone trying to improve their life is the feeling that there simply aren't enough hours in the day. The book challenges this notion through the concept of the 24-hour mission. This is the practice of auditing your entire day with extreme detail to find dead time. Most people lose hours to mindless scrolling, unproductive conversations, or simply moving through their day without a plan. The 24-hour mission requires you to schedule your life in blocks, ensuring that every minute is used with intention. If you are working, you are 100% focused on work. If you are training, you are 100% focused on training. If you are resting, it is scheduled rest, not accidental laziness. This point is critical because it removes the most common excuse people use for not pursuing their goals: I don't have time. When you actually write down how you spend your time, you realize that you have plenty of it, you're just wasting it. By treating your day like a military operation, you reclaim those lost hours and reinvest them into your self-improvement. It teaches you that discipline isn't just about what you do in the gym or the office, it's about how you manage the mundane moments in between. It's the difference between someone who hopes to find time to exercise and someone who creates the time by waking up earlier and streamlining their commute. For instance, consider someone who says they want to write a book but works a full-time job. Through a 24-hour audit, they might realize they spend 45 minutes on their phone before bed and another hour watching TV. By reclaiming that time, they have nearly 2 hours a day to write. Over a year, that is over 700 hours of focused work, enough to write several books. The 24-hour mission turns Sunday into a daily reality. Now we move to the next point. Once you have the time and the mindset, you have to confront the heavy weight of your past. Many people are held back by the victim label, and the book provides a brutal but effective way to shed that weight and find power in your history. Shedding the victim label, finding power in the scars. One of the most profound shifts discussed in the book is the transition from a victim mindset to an empowered mindset. Many people carry the scars of a difficult upbringing, trauma, or past failures like a heavy backpack that slows them down. They use these experiences as a reason why they can't succeed. The philosophy here is to take those exact same experiences and use them as the reason why you must succeed. It's about owning your story instead of letting your story own you. You stop looking for sympathy and start looking for strength. You realize that the very things that were meant to break you are the things that gave you the unique endurance you have today. This is important because as long as you see yourself as a victim, you are giving away your power to the people or circumstances that hurt you. By choosing to see your past as the basic training for your life, you reclaim that power. The book emphasizes that you shouldn't be ashamed of your scars, you should see them as evidence that you can survive and thrive. This mental shift turns your greatest weaknesses into your greatest weapons. It allows you to walk into any room with a sense of confidence because you know that you have already endured things that would have broken the people around you. A short example is someone who had a very difficult relationship with a parent. Instead of spending their life feeling broken by that lack of support, they choose to see it as the reason they are so independent and self-reliant. They use the toughness they developed as a child to fuel their ambition as an adult. They aren't succeeding in spite of their past, they are succeeding because of the lessons that past forced them to learn. Now we move to the next point. Having addressed the mental and historical aspects of our growth, we have to look at the physical foundation. The mind cannot operate at an elite level if the body is falling apart, and the book details a very specific approach to physical maintenance. The physical-mental connection, maintaining the machine. While much of the focus is on mental toughness, the book also highlights the absolute necessity of physical maintenance, specifically through extreme stretching and recovery. This isn't just about being flexible, it's about the fact that the body stores stress and tension. If you push your mind and body to the absolute limit day after day, you will eventually hit a wall where your body simply breaks down, no matter how tough your mind is. The lesson here is that you must treat your body with the same discipline you use for your training. This involves spending hours, not minutes, focusing on recovery, stretching, and mobility. This is important because it represents the balance of a high-performance life. You cannot just go hard all the time without also recovering hard. If you neglect the physical machine, your mental toughness will eventually be sidelined by injury. Furthermore, the act of long-form stretching is itself a form of mental training. It is uncomfortable, it is boring, and it requires intense focus. By forcing yourself to sit in that discomfort for hours, you are callousing your mind in a different way while simultaneously ensuring that your body can handle the next day's challenges. It's about longevity. You want to be hard not just for a season, but for a lifetime. For example, imagine a dedicated athlete who runs 50 miles a week but never stretches. Eventually, their muscles become so tight that they develop chronic pain, which then sours their mental outlook and makes them want to quit. By incorporating 2 hours of stretching every night, they not only heal their body but also practice the patience and stillness required to stay in the game long term. Now we move to the next point. This physical discipline leads us into the final overarching philosophy of the book, the idea that the suck or the pain itself is not something to be avoided, but something to be sought out and embraced. Embracing the suck, finding peace in the pain. The ultimate goal of all these practices is to reach a state where you are comfortable being uncomfortable. This is often referred to as embracing the suck. In most of our lives, we spend a great deal of energy trying to avoid pain, cold, hunger, and fatigue. This philosophy suggests that you should do the exact opposite. You should lean into the suck. When it's raining outside and you have to run, you don't wait for the sun, you go out because it's raining. You find a certain kind of peace and even a dark humor in the misery. You learn to smile when things are at their worst because you know that the suck is where the most growth happens. This point is vital because it makes you truly unbreakable. If your happiness and performance are dependent on everything going perfectly, the right weather, the right mood, the right coworkers, then you are fragile. But if you have learned to embrace the suck, you are invincible. You are no longer afraid of hard times because you know how to find your rhythm within them. It turns the obstacles of life into your natural habitat. When everyone else is complaining and looking for the exit, you are at home. You aren't just surviving the storm, you are the storm. A relatable example is a student who has to pull an all-nighter to finish a project. Most would complain and feel like a victim of their schedule. The person who embraces the suck makes a pot of coffee, laughs at how difficult the situation is, and finds a strange joy in the quiet hours of the night. They don't just finish the work, they finish it with a sense of pride that they were able to perform when the conditions were at their worst. I have written approximately 3,700 words. Do you want me to continue from the exact same point? _weight, checking the word count rules. The target is 4,500 to 6,000. I am at 3,700. I should add a few more detailed sections to get closer to the 4,500 to 5,000 mark before asking for the conclusion. The power of greatness sustained, avoiding the one-hit wonder trap. One of the final concepts discussed is the danger of the finish line. Many people work incredibly hard to achieve a single goal, like losing 50 pounds, finishing a degree, or completing a marathon. Once they cross that line, they relax. They feel they have arrived, and they slowly slide back into their old, soft habits. The book argues for greatness sustained. This means that there is no final finish line. Every achievement is simply a plateau from which you view the next peak. To sustain greatness, you must remain a permanent student of your own potential. You must continue to set new challenges that scare you, even after you've already achieved things that most people find remarkable. This is important because the mind is naturally inclined toward entropy. If you aren't actively pushing forward, you are inevitably sliding backward. There is no such thing as maintaining your mental toughness. You are either building it or losing it. Sustaining greatness requires a level of humility that is rare. It means that even if you are a world-class performer, you still look for ways to improve by 1%. You stay hungry. You stay uncommon. You don't let your past trophies keep you from your future work. You realize that your greatest achievement should always be the thing you are working on right now. For example, think of a successful business owner who finally sells their company for a large sum of money. While others might retire to a life of pure leisure, the person dedicated to sustained greatness uses that success as a foundation to start a new, even more challenging project. They don't do it because they need the money. They do it because they need the struggle to stay sharp and to keep their mind calloused. Now we move to the next point. After understanding that there is no true finish line, we have to look at how we deal with the inevitable criticism that comes from living this way. When you choose a path of extreme discipline, you will face pushback from the normal world. Dealing with the crabs in a bucket mentality. As you begin to change and push your limits, you will notice that not everyone is happy for you. This is the crabs in a bucket mentality. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it can easily climb out. But if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, the moment one tries to climb out, the others will reach up and pull it back down. People in your life, friends, family, co-workers, may subconsciously try to pull you back to their level of comfort. They might mock your new habits, tell you that you're taking it too far, or try to tempt you back into your old ways. This is one of the hardest parts of the journey because it involves social friction. Understanding this is important because it prepares you for the loneliness of the path. You have to realize that their criticism isn't about you, it's about their own insecurities. Your progress is a mirror that shows them what they aren't doing in their own lives. To overcome this, you have to be willing to be the outcast. You have to value your own mission more than the approval of people who are satisfied with being average. You don't have to be mean to them, but you do have to be unwavering in your standards. Eventually, some of those people might even be inspired to start climbing out of the bucket themselves, but you can only help them by staying out of the bucket first. A practical example is someone who decides to stop drinking and start training for a triathlon. Their friends might pressure them to just have one drink or mock them for going to bed early on a Friday night. By staying firm and not giving in to the social pressure, the individual calluses their mind against the need for external validation, which is a key component of ultimate self-mastery. We have journeyed through a philosophy that is as demanding as it is transformative. The lessons we've explored, from the brutal honesty of the accountability mirror to the strategic resilience of the cookie jar, all lead back to a single, powerful truth: you are capable of much more than you have been led to believe. The story of David Goggins isn't just a series of accomplishments, it is a blueprint for anyone who is tired of living at 40%. It is a reminder that the pain, the doubt, and the fatigue you feel are not signs to stop, but signals that you are finally entering the arena where real growth happens. The final message of the book is that the most important war you will ever fight is the war within your own mind. There will always be excuses, and there will always be a governor trying to keep you safe and small. But you now have the tools to silence that voice. You have the what-if mindset to challenge your limits, the after-action report to learn from your failures, and the discipline of the 24-hour mission to ensure that not a single moment of your life is wasted. You have learned that greatness is not a destination you reach and then stay at. It is a standard that must be sustained every single day through intentional suffering and relentless self-improvement. By callousing your mind and embracing the suck, you move beyond the need for external motivation. You no longer wait for the perfect conditions or the right feeling to get to work. You become the person who can be dropped into any situation, no matter how difficult, and find a way to not only survive but to dominate. You become uncommon amongst uncommon. This journey requires you to shed the labels of the past and take full ownership of your future. It asks you to look in the mirror every day and ask yourself if you are truly giving everything you have. As we conclude this summary, remember that the can't hurt me mindset is not something you are born with, it is something you build, one difficult choice at a time. It is built in the early morning runs, the late night study sessions, and the moments when you decide to take one more step when your body is begging you to sit down. The path to an unbreakable mind is open to anyone willing to walk it. The only question left is whether you are willing to face yourself, remove the governor, and see what you are truly made of. Your life is the ultimate mission, and it's time to start living it at 100%.